Hi, Greg here. We're going to talk about deadlifting. Now, this is a Romanian deadlift or a stiff leg deadlift. Deadlifting is probably one of the most complicated, but also one of the most important things that you can do training-wise. It really makes for a strong back, strong upper, lower back, but also strong hamstrings, which are really commonly very weak in a lot of the people that I see. So this is definitely a drill you want to master. And then as you get really good at it, then you can start to increase the resistance you're working with or how much weight you have in your hands. So to learn it at first, we're going to go like we always do from the ground up. And we'll talk about everything that you need to remember. So, setting your feet so that your heels are shoulder width apart or thereabouts. And then for men, you're going to have your feet parallel, exactly parallel, so feet pointing forward, unless you've been told that there's some sort of hip problem that you have to accommodate and have your toes out. Otherwise, you're going to keep your feet nice and parallel. Women, you're going to have your feet slightly out, maybe 5 to 8 degrees, and it's because the pelvis is built slightly differently, so you really want to make sure that you accommodate that difference and have your toes out just a little bit, okay? Now, once we've set where our feet are, we're going to set our center of gravity. So, to set your center of gravity in the right place, we're going to lean back until you feel your quads turn on, and then just lean forward until they turn off. And what you should feel at that point is that you have your weight in your heel, but a little forward too into your arch. You don't have a ton of weight on your toes, but the majority of your weight is in your heels and in your arches, okay? You really want to try and maintain that center of gravity all the time, even when your body's moving. So really pay attention to the feeling in your heels. From here, you're going to bend your knees slightly. This is a stiff leg deadlift. It doesn't mean it's a straight leg deadlift. Straight leg deadlifting, in my opinion, is not good for your body. So you're going to have your knees slightly bent, okay? Now, because it's a stiff leg deadlift, if you bend your knees 2, 3, 4 degrees, whatever, you're going to try and maintain that bend in your knees all the time. So you're not actually flexing or extending your knees during this exercise, okay? Then what we're going to do is set our neutral spine. So to set the neutral spine, and if you don't know how to do this, definitely go to the building blocks and learn all the pelvic tilt drills so that you're really good at manipulating the position of your lower back. Because what you'll have to do is arch your back until it's completely arched and then back off just a little bit so that there's no weight on the small joints of your spine. This gets complicated, but you definitely don't want to be in that completely arched position, which a lot of people are doing. So neutral spine is just outside. You arch again, I'll say it again, it's arch all the way and then just back off a little bit so that there's a little bit of looseness in your back. And from there, we want to set our weight belt. This is going to help to support your lower back. Okay, your TVA or your built-in weight belt, this is the only muscle in your abdominal cavity that doesn't actually actuate a movement in your body. So it won't crunch you forward, won't crunch you sideways. Okay, so to set your TVA, the drill we use is to breathe in and push your stomach out. This relaxes your TVA completely, and as your diaphragm comes down to fill your lungs, it pushes the contents of your abdomen out. So if your TVA is relaxed, your stomach will come out. Then you're going to breathe out and draw your stomach in. So you really think about drawing your belly button in towards your spine. And that's activating your TVA. So if your stomach is concave, your TVA is active. Now, when you activate your TVA, you shouldn't feel like your body is crunching forward. Because if it does feel like it's crunching forward even a little bit, it means the other abs are working with your TVA. And for this instance, we definitely don't want that. Okay, so if you're having a hard time separating those, then definitely go to the building blocks and master all the TVA work that is there in the building blocks. Okay, now, so we have a neutral spine and we have our TVA set. Our shoulders, it'll very much depend on how much weight is in the hands, and right now, to learn the exercise, you can have a broom handle or broomstick or some sort of dowel or whatever. Jess has just got a plastic dowel that we use for our hurdles, which weighs less than half a pound, okay? So, what she's going to do from this position is bend at the hip itself. So all the movement in your deadlift comes from bending your pelvis forward as you're moving. And you'll notice a couple of things as she goes through this. So she's going to lean forward. First of all, even in this position here, she's still looking forward. Chest is sort of out, which is good. Okay, and arms are relaxed. As she leans forward, you'll see that her lower body, in its entirety, knee and everything, drift backwards. That's to maintain the center of gravity in her heels. So keep leaning forward. She's going to lean forward as far as she can until a couple of things happen. Either the bar reaches your knees, and that's far enough, or you feel your hamstrings go tight. Now, because what's happening as you tilt your pelvis forward, your hamstrings are getting longer and longer. and they'll come to the end of their range, and you'll feel your hamstrings go tight, and that's as far as you should do a stiff leg deadlift, okay? And a lot of people have told me this before, I don't feel my hamstrings going tight, there's got to be a couple of things that are happening there. It's either you're bending at the knee, and as you bend at the knee, it's loosening off your hamstrings again, so you're not feeling it, or if your knee position is good, you're actually bending at the lower back and you're leaning forward, which again is allowing your hamstrings to stay in that loose position. This in particular is very bad for your back. It actually creates a lot of compression on your discs and opens you up to some injuries that could take a long time to rehab. So really make sure that you're maintaining that arch position. And if you notice that Jess's eyes are looking across the room, this helps to maintain that neutral position, and the TVA is nice and tight still, okay? And then she'll come back up from there. Okay, so again, going through this, we're going to maintain our neutral spine, so arch all the way, and then back off a little bit, keep your stomach in, set your TVA. If you have to set your TVA because you don't really feel it between every repetition, that's fine, and as you get stronger, you'll be able to hold it for more repetitions. So, you lean forward until the hamstrings go tight, okay, that's the extent of it, and then come back up. Now, if you're having a hard time feeling this, and a lot of people do, even though they've done some of the pelvic tilt drills, you really want to make sure that you're meticulous about maintaining this low back position. The trick that I use, the cheapest trick in the book, if you've seen the squatting video, I talk about it there, is to take a small piece of tape. You're going to start it right at the belt line and a couple of inches up your spine, okay? What that piece of tape will do is, as you're leaning forward into your deadlift, trying to maintain this position, if you tilt your pelvis and you round your back, the piece of tape will pull on your skin and it will give you some immediate feedback as to whether you're bending your spine or not, okay? So the trick is to start from there, start all the way up. You put the piece of tape here. As you lean forward, you keep the tape as loose as possible, okay? One side note to that, if you put it too low, the skin will actually stretch it. So you got to really make sure that it's from the belt line up, okay? So that's one really useful, cheap trick that I use. The other one I use, which is hugely important, is to maintain your stomach position, your TVA position. And as you get into more and more hip flexion, a lot of people have a hard time being aware as to whether the stomach is in or not. So what I do, you can stand all the way up, is take a small piece of string. It's got to be strong enough that it won't break, but it can be a narrow piece of string. You're going to tie it around where your belly button is, draw your stomach in and tie it. It doesn't have to be super tight, but just a little bit taut. So if your stomach actually releases, it pushes against the piece of string, and again, we'll give you a little bit of feedback as to whether you're actually able to hold your weight belt tight, which is protecting your lower back. Okay?